from the Geek Life, and we are here live on a beautiful Sunday evening, and we have an amazing creator with us by the name of Celesmeh, or Celeste. How's it going today?
Hey, how's it going?
Good, good. Just getting ready for the craziness of the holidays. You know, having eggnog, making tamales, eating tamales, all that good stuff. And yeah, how have the holidays been for you so far?
It's been a little bit interesting. I think all of us are kind of suffering from that, right? Where you're just trying
Yeah,
to uh make this weird year make sense.
yeah.
Um, that's pretty much where I'm at.
Mm.
Where I'm just trying to make it work.
Riding the wave and all that
Um,
kind of stuff. Exactly. I feel
mhm.
that. And yeah, so I am super excited because I've been a fan of your content for a long time. Actually, since I discovered Latinx in gaming shortly after I discovered you, and I've been a fan of your like Twitch channel and checking out your
Oh, thank
streams and
you.
everything. Yeah, of course. So I am honored and humbled to have you on as a guest. And
I'm
uh,
so excited.
yeah, so to start off, would you please introduce yourself and everything about you and everything?
Sure. So my name is Celis or Celesmeh. I am a weird breed of content creator on Twitch. I do both like mental health streaming and I do gaming. And I kind of focus on Latinx, LGBTQ issues and mental health in across all of my content. So I kind of just do my best to take mental health topics and break them down from a scientific perspective.
Yeah,
I'm a scientist in real life, so that's kind of what I do.
yeah.
Um, and I don't know, it's a lot of fun. I've been like a gamer for a very long time, and a really big part of my mental health journey has been like playing games, and it's helped me so much, and it's been really empowering. So being able to do that on Twitch and maybe kind of be that example for other people has been really
Mhm.
cool for me.
That's really cool. What drew me to your content was the discussion of mental health, and I really enjoy because I feel like, especially in the Latinx community, I don't want to generalize it too much, but at least in my culture, my community, mental
Mhm.
health is a very new thing that people are just barely talking about, and then barely like. It's
Yeah.
becoming more socially acceptable to go to therapy and to seek help for and admit that there's issues, but for a long time it was like sort of demonized or looked down upon. Like if you saw a therapist, you
Mhm.
were like, quote unquote crazy or whatever. But so I love that at your stream there was a warm and welcome environment, and then from you as well, seeing you interview people was beautiful to see how awesome it was. And you actually inspired me to like create content like this as well, and then interview other people too. So it's like cool to have you on and everything. And
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
of course,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's always interesting to talk to other content creators and learn how people feel about like mental health across the board.
yeah,
And I completely agree with you. Like growing up there was this stigma that like anything related to mental health, like seeing a psychologist, seeing a psychiatrist, whatever, was really bad.
yeah.
And in fact, my mom, when she was having she suffered a lot from mental illness as well, and when she was having like particularly bad days, she would say things like, you know, they're going to take me and they're just gonna like lock me up, right?
Yeah.
And that was like a threat or like a common like saying.
Hmm.
And that's so hard to hear, especially when you're younger, because you just think like, oh no, I'm not okay, so I must be like super messed up in the head, like
Hmm.
it must be terrible. um and that's, I don't know, that's just always really rough. It's so hard to see, you know.
Exactly, yeah. So, I know you from now, and like I see you thrive, and I see you have like a bunch of followers that like you support you and come to your streams and everything. But I want to know, what is your
Mhm.
origin story, both as like a scientist, maybe mental health, or even just like your
Yeah,
streaming, whatever makes Celeste Celeste.
I love that question. Like, what is your origin story? I don't think I've ever been asked that before. And I like that because you hear a lot of people being like, "What is your history?" Whatever. But I feel
Yeah.
like origin story is such a good way of talking about it. Huh? Hold on, I gotta think about that.
When you read as many comic
Um,
books as I do, origin story is the key phrase.
yeah. Um, I'm totally gonna steal that for the future, just so you
Go
know.
for it, please.
Um,
Yeah.
so there is, I guess, I left my house, like I left for college when I was quite young.
Hmm.
I was 16, turning 17, like my first year there. I was, oh, sorry. I was one of those like weird September babies.
Yeah.
That when uh I would turn 17 like when I was in college or whatever.
Hmm.
Um, and I left the island. I left Puerto Rico in part because I realized that uh I I was getting scared of people discovering that I
Hmm.
may be LGBTQ, right?
Yeah.
That was kind of something that consumed my thoughts. Was the fear that I may be like a lesbian,
Hmm.
and the other was the fear that it may be discovered that I'm a lesbian. I couldn't decide like which one was worse. And I'd grown up in a very like um, very Roman Catholic family, and I
Hmm.
remember being taught that being LGBTQ was a choice. And I remember being awake in the middle of the night, and I would sit in my bathtub to think, um, and I'd be sitting in my bathtub, and I'd be like praying, like if it's a choice, then I choose not to. So
Yeah.
can we please get past this? And being able to kind of like move away from uh from like that environment really helped me grow. But at the same time, at around that same age, I discovered that I had mental health issues.
Hmm.
Um, and like looking back, I've always probably had issues with anxiety. I do have like complex PTSD,
Hmm.
and other people in my family suffer from mental health, but it was never talked about.
Yeah.
So I had no idea what was going on. So I got
Hmm.
to college, and suddenly, like, I can't handle anything. I'm constantly afraid of myself. I'm constantly hating myself because of like my upbringing and who I was becoming. And I was dealing with all of these mental health issues that were popping up. And I broke apart like
Yeah.
completely. Um, and eventually through therapy, people who loved me, and like good friends who were willing to sit with me for hours and make sure I didn't do something stupid,
Yeah.
like I was able to uh I don't want to say get over, because get over sounds really weird.
Yeah.
Um but I was able to get to a point where I was functional.
Hmm.
And then from functional I
Like
went
adapt and
to,
overcome, sort of.
yeah, it's like I got to functional, and from functional I got to like capable, and from capable I got to like I graduated, and then I found a job, and I found a job in the sciences because sciences seemed like a good space for me, because you
Hmm.
can ask questions, and it's all about asking questions all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm a very curious person. um and then uh eventually I fell in love with someone, um and I moved in with them.
Yeah.
And now 8 years later, I think, has it been 8 years? It's 6 years later.
Hmm.
We've been dating for 8 years. 6 years later, we like have moved in together. We
Yeah.
have like a house and a home, and I finally have like the future that when I was younger and
Yeah.
when I was not okay, I didn't even think that I could have.
Yeah.
Right. Um. So I guess that's my origin story,
Right
to the
on.
best of my ability.
That is beautiful. That is so I sympathize and I like feel that so much, in a lot of different angles. Even though I'm
Mhm.
fourth generation, I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona. I don't speak Spanish at all, and I'm very Americanized and all that kind of stuff. I
Yeah.
still relate to a lot of that because of the same sort of thing. Where like I feel like it might be a defense mechanism for our communities where we had to like fight to survive and to make our families, live to have a
Yeah.
better day and to be fed and all that kind of stuff. So if you're at work and you can't, mental health can't be there because you have to support your family or whatever. And
Yeah.
then so I always wonder because I have a love hate relationship with how strong and how much we persevere as a culture, because like I too saw it in a lot of my family with like mental health issues, like
Mhm.
depression, anxiety, but they wouldn't call it that. It was just calling like being a sissy or being a puss or whatever. It's like all these weird
Yeah.
like terms that just to kind of minimalize it, but it's amazing that.
Yeah. It's
Mhm. Go for it.
Oh, I was going to say that it's really interesting that in and I think it does come a little bit from that, right? Like where we're constantly having to, especially as people of color, as people who are like
Hmm.
immigrants, right? We're constantly having to prove that we are allowed to have space
Yeah.
to like other people, right? But that also means that when you are like not okay, you can't show that.
Hmm.
right? Or it's perceived that you can't show that because then you're a failure, right? And that's always really hard, um, because that's kind of the culture that we're taught.
Exactly that. Yeah, because I mean, in a lot of ways, it's true. We have to work three times as hard just to get the same amount of like
Hmm.
thing that someone who's lighter skinned, not even just white, but lighter skinned, could get and everything.
Hmm.
So that whole struggle is like immense. So like I am so like proud and so hyped for you that you have that current situation, where you've been 6 years and everything like that, and everything's going well, and you got a great job and successful Twitch channel with that's super awesome and everything. So it's really cool. And then
It's
yeah, so
yeah.
so this one is like your question essentially. So as a
Okay.
content creator, we can often find ourselves working beyond our limits and ultimately burning out, which happens, time and time again for all of us. What are your own self care techniques in order to ensure that your mental health is like uh, in tip top shape and everything?
Uh, I guess the first thing is I don't think my mental health is ever in tip top shape.
Yeah,
I think I just do my best to find ways to keep going. Like, especially this year. I think that if you'd asked me that same question last year, I would have been like, well, for self care, I do this and that, whatever.
yeah,
But this year, like, I have been running on fumes for like, I don't know, months now.
uh huh.
And it's honestly exhausting, right? Like 2020 has been very exhausting for a lot of us,
Oh, absolutely, yeah,
because it's almost like a global trauma, right? Like the world is changing and suddenly we can't do any of the things we used to do, the way that we perceive life, all of our routines, how we work, everything is completely changed. um so I would say that right now my like self-care mental health routine is just do my best with what I've got
yeah,
to be okay and to be functional and to be capable. And when I can find pockets of joy,
yeah,
to like thrive and live those moments as much as possible. Like I was telling you before we started that I had
yeah,
just found a game that I was getting like really into, right?
yeah.
And I'm on a work vacation right now. So I'm totally leaning into that because I
Nice, yeah,
can. I haven't been able to do that for a while. So for me, having the space to like hang out online with friends, like play a game, do things without having the stress and fear of like work, the world, the holidays, and
yeah.
mental health overall, right? Has been like really nice. Um, I think that honestly, whatever you can do to promote healthy behaviors,
Mhm,
um, to try to find like, I guess, uh try to find like healthy coping mechanisms. Like it's
mhm,
okay to be like kind of sad and get drunk,
mhm.
but it's not okay to do that like every day, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So like finding like healthy coping mechanisms, finding ways to be functional and finding ways to enjoy those moments of happiness, I
Hmm.
think is incredibly important right now and is probably the best we got.
Hmm. Yeah, that's really good. That's a strong piece of wisdom because it's applicable to all of us because this has been a hard year and it's
Mhm.
definitely easy for people to say that like oh yeah, just work out and you'll feel great and like which is maybe true to an extent, but that's not the whole story. It doesn't always
I
work for
mean,
everyone.
also like what gym are you going to go to right now, bruh?
Mm-hmm.
Like I was
Exactly.
I was going to a gym in my local area, but then cases started going up. So I
Yeah.
was like, okay, well, I guess we're done now. Like I'm not going to risk it.
Yeah.
Like how like how do you choose between like being safe and being healthy and
Mm-hmm.
like what are the sacrifices that you have to make, right? Because right now you want to buy some like dumbbells online to exercise, have fun finding some. Like good
Mm-hmm.
luck.
Yeah.
Good luck. But you want to go to a gym, also unsafe. Good luck. Like it's one of those things where we have to sit down and we have to get creative in order to find healthiness and happiness again, right?
Yeah.
Um so I guess like right now more than anything like creativity I think is really important and really empowering for a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, so we know that you have accomplished like so much during your career, and even just seeing you since I like found you a few months ago through Latinx and gaming, it's been awesome to see. And there's got to be a lot of W's in that, but the one I want to ask about is your L's over your career. So,
Mhm.
and my very first interview was with a brilliant woman.
Mhm.
She had said that L's no longer stand for losses; they stand for lessons. So, what is the biggest L is in lesson that you've learned from a failure and a mistake or whatever that made you grow?
So I started streaming about 3 years ago, right? And I
Yeah.
streamed for about a year and a half. Uh, and then actually 4 years ago, and then I stopped. I
Mm-hmm.
stopped, hard stopped for 2 years, before I came back. And the reason that I hard stopped was like three things happened. One, I was getting stressed out, and like, I was in a friendship and community on Twitch that was not healthy for me.
Yeah.
Um, and it was really messing with my head. And it was this weird thing where people were like friendly, but also competitive. And I was starting to get focused on the numbers and feeling
Mm-hmm.
anxious about it, and I was constantly like looking at that, and it was like, oh fuck, right? All the time, just like focused on that.
Yeah.
And it became really unhealthy. Two, I started focusing more on like the content creation than I did the relationships around me.
Yeah.
And three, I had just started a new job that was becoming like very stressful and very like time consuming, and suddenly it was like, well, actually I want to focus on that job instead.
Mm-hmm.
So I looked at what I was doing and I said, you know what, I have to stop, and I won't come back to this until I can be healthy about it, right?
Yeah.
And so I stopped, and for 2 years I worked on other shit. Like, I worked on my uh I worked on my like mental health, I worked on my career, I
Yeah.
worked on my home, I worked on literally everything else. And finally, like when the pandemic started, I realized like I have all of these tools, especially around mental health.
Mm-hmm.
And now, especially with the pandemic, I have a whole lot more time. You know what? Let's just do this. We're
Mm-hmm.
gonna we're gonna go right back, right? Um, and when I came back, suddenly I wasn't really that focused on numbers. I was like, I'm
Yeah.
just gonna create my content. Whoever wants to come by can come by. I'm just gonna do my own thing. And all of a sudden, like, it became nicer
Mm-hmm.
and like happier, and I have like a community that's growing and like
Mm-hmm.
thriving. And it was this whole like kind of aha moment that it was like, I'm not like aggressively trying to do what I was doing before, right? Before I would
Yeah.
try to grow the community and I'd be like, no, but like we only had one person join the Discord, like god, that's so hard, like this sucked, and we only did this and that. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, no, 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 now I just focus on my content, and I'm also like obnoxiously honest with my community.
Genuine. Yeah.
Like,
Authentic.
yeah, there's a lot of times when like I can't stream because I am fucking tired. I've
Mm-hmm.
had a shit day. And before I would have been like, well, fuck it, I'm just going to stream anyway. And now I'm like, guys, I can't. But at the same time, I think that that gives a lot of people like an example to be like, even people that I look up to, or even people who like do mental health like peer support, have days when they just can't. And I think
Yeah.
that it's important to show like the good and the bad side of mental health
Mm-hmm.
issues and mental illness specifically. Like, we see a lot of people talking about like depression and like suicidal ideation, and they'll be like, I was suicidal once, but like through the power of therapy, meds, and perseverance, I got over it, and look at how amazing I am, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I have one of those stories too. I've been suicidal before. I
Mm-hmm.
attempted twice, didn't catch, didn't stick. Um, but in the end, like, I still struggle.
Yeah.
Like that fight to keep going and to get better and to do all this stuff, like that doesn't stop.
Mm-hmm.
You don't just
It's a
have
journey.
the
Yeah.
depression once, right? And so I think that all those success stories can be very empowering, but at the same time it can be so hard for people who aren't seeing that success, that like aha moment in
Mm-hmm.
their lives. They can be like, well, why am I not capable of doing that? And the truth is that like sometimes mental health is just a constant struggle.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you're like, everything sucks and it's just going to keep sucking, and I just have to keep going. Like, even last night, like, I was talking to my girlfriend and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
sweetie, like, are we going to be okay? Because the truth is that, like, we haven't been able to, like, see people.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of had to put all of our plans on hold.
Yeah.
And now we have like this new variant of COVID that's going through the UK,
Oh, I
right?
saw
And
that.
so
Yeah.
yeah. And like I'm not, as a scientist especially, I'm not surprised. And one of the things that I told people when all of this started was just that like this is going to be for the long haul.
Hmm.
Like
Yep.
this isn't going to be oh, in a few months it'll be better, or even in a few, like in a year it'll be better. This will be like, it's going to be a few years of figuring shit out. But some days, like yesterday, I felt like, God, those few years of figuring shit out are so hard. Why do I want to keep going?
Hmm.
And I had that conversation with my partner, with my girlfriend, where I was just like, sweetie, how do we even do this? Like, is there still a future that we want? And like, fortunately, like she talked to me about it, but like it was a very dark mindset.
Hmm.
But those things happen, and you need to learn how to handle them and how to make sure that you're okay, right?
Yeah.
When you get those. So for me, like it's really powerful to talk to my friends and to my partner when I'm not feeling okay,
Hmm.
right? But like maybe sometimes what I'll do is just I'll sit down and watch a TV show, or I'll read a book, or I'll try to breathe, or I'll do breathing exercises and meditation. Like having those tools can be really empowering,
Hmm.
but you need to know to use them.
Yeah.
And you need to admit that like a lot of times, especially like when you suffer from like a mental illness or you're struggling with your mental health, like it's not like one aha moment and you're fine.
Yeah.
It's a journey, and that
Hmm.
that's okay. And like that's kind of like what I try to focus on, and that's why I'm a little bit like brutally honest a lot of the time with like my
Yeah.
mental health stuff. It's just that like I don't want toxic positivity. I want
Yeah.
realism.
Exactly. Yeah. And then there's a lot of thoughts that I have on a lot of that.
Yeah.
One of which is that I feel like it's a myth that there's a normal person. Like I feel like every single person has something, and if they say that they don't, they're just bottling it up. And one day it'll come to light, or maybe they just don't know that there's a name for what they have, and whether because of either just sheer ignorance, or they just haven't
Mhm.
found it yet or whatever. But I find that that's one of the more comforting things, because when I was younger, I was like couldn't focus. I was always like my brain was
Yeah.
going a mile a minute and everything like that. And I was like, man, I must be dumb because no one else feels this way. X, Y, and Z. And then sure enough, I get older and I'm like, oh, ADHD is a thing. I probably have ADHD. I'm not dumb. I'm very smart actually. It's just that my body works differently than other people, and I've met like-minded people and found a community for it, and then our stories
Yeah.
aligned and everything. So it's amazing to
How
me. Go for it.
can I just like give a shout out really quick to the How to ADHD community?
Oh
Like
yeah.
they're fantastic, and if ADHD is something that you struggle with, like it's an amazing community to be part of. And the content creator uh uh like that runs the channel is a
Yeah.
very good friend of mine.
Oh, right on.
And honestly, like it's an amazing and great space. So just quick shout out.
That was a good shout out. I'll have to find that link and put it in there. Yeah, but like, it's one of those things that if you don't know what the issue is, then you don't know how to address it, or like how to find ways to adapt and like overcome. It's just like me with glasses. Like I can't see without them, and I need glasses to help me equalize things and all that kind of stuff. So it's like very similar to a lot of those things, just mentally, which is harder for people to grasp because they can't see it. They can't and I don't know. There's a lot of weird things on the COVID topic. One thing that came to mind as well is that I feel like if we look through history, there's a lot of like struggle, and there's a lot of conflict, and we've been blessed with the time and era that is peaceful for the most part. Like yeah, we've had terrorist attacks and some like wars and all that kind of stuff, but nothing like super major. And now here is our time as adults. Like it just feels like a weird, like the world is changing and now we're adapting with it, and it's like
Yeah, I mean, this is our world war, for example,
exactly,
right?
yeah.
Like, yeah,
And
I
it's
would
mhm.
I would hazard to say that we, especially after World War II, like and this is me being like a history nerd, so feel free to stop
Go
me.
for it, go
Um,
for it, yeah.
but especially after World War II, we crafted a world where where wars became very separate from civilian life. And
Mm-hmm.
we did that intentionally because World War One and World War Two were like devastating to civilians, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as a result of that, like the US has been at war for like over 10 years.
Yeah.
But like people who aren't part of the military, like 100% like don't even notice half the time, right?
Yeah.
And so this is something that has finally kind of crossed that boundary where everyone, and it's not just like a country, it's the entire world is
Yeah.
going through this, and there's no real way to not stop it, but there's no way around it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's 100% all about like just doing your best and going for it
Mm-hmm.
while at the same time adapting to a completely different world. And like K Squared said in your chat, it's our new defining moment.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's very interesting because at least for me, like my great grandfather, he would visit the U.S. every so often, and
Mhm.
then during his lifetime as a young adult, it started to change where the borders started to get really, really strict, and then he had to
Mhm.
make a decision like, well, do I start a new life in America and try to get more than what I had in Mexico, or do I, like save in Mexico and maybe never get into the U.S. and try to do it legally. So we had to make that hard decision and just like just hide and had to go through a bunch of hoops just to survive in the U.S. for his entire life and start a family and everything like that. And I always remember hearing those stories. And then even from like then on, just being like, yeah, we were born in the poorest neighborhood and we had to fight for everything we had. There were gangs, there was violence, there was drugs all around. And then getting to me, which is fourth generation, being like man, everything's easy breezy. All I have to worry about is my World of Warcraft guild and getting to raid night and all that kind of stuff. And now as an adult,
Yeah.
here it is. Like here's me having to man up and be that senior and make sure the
You have to be the one who's like owning that.
exactly,
And
yeah.
that's so hard.
Yeah, so it's wild. So that's how I've tried to come to terms with it. Is
Mhm.
to feel like if no one else is going to take care of my family, I need to take care of my family. So like,
Mhm.
and that whole like perseverance comes into play. But this time with mental health like techniques to be able to make sure that I don't lose my mind. Wallet. And I feel like a lot of people are going through the same struggle of like, because I
Mhm.
remember when COVID was first announced earlier this year, people were like, oh, this will go away, it's not really like that big of a deal, it's just like the flu, and then just being like, you're in denial, dude. And
Yeah.
yeah. Now we're on. Sorry,
I
I'm
had
like,
a lot of those conversations.
oh, for sure, yeah. And then sorry, I'm like way off track. Okay, so
Oh no, no worries.
we talked about your L. So let's pivot to the other direction and talk about your W's. What is one of the accomplishments that you take the most pride in, whether it be something small and like early on, or some massive achievement that you feel great about? Yeah.
So two things I would
Mm-hmm.
say. Two things. The first is I have survived every bad day I've ever had.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that that's something that I'm constantly trying to remind myself.
Yeah.
I've made it through every bad day. And I guess the other one is I have managed to find a partner in my life who is incredible. Like I would not be here if I had not found my girlfriend when
Yeah.
I did.
Oh.
Um,
Yeah.
she was like my best friend when I was in college, and we've been best friends ever since.
Mhm.
And like she is like my other half.
Yeah.
Um, and on days when I feel like I can't live for myself, I will live for her, right? And I think that that relationship showed me, first of all, what a healthy relationship looked like,
Mm-hmm.
because especially coming from an abusive space,
Yeah.
I had no concept of what healthy relationships
Yeah.
could look like. Um, and also finding a relationship that would encourage me to be better but also be myself authentically,
Mm-hmm.
um has been like loving, empowering, and fantastic. And so I would say that that's my other W. Like nothing can beat that.
Yeah. Dang, that's so beautiful. That's amazing.
I'm a sap.
No, dude, you're good. You're
I'm
being
sap.
genuine. So that's like wonderful. And it's so good. And then, so what geeky passions actually fueled you and your creativity that make you who you are today, whether it be video games, manga, anime, any of those?
So I do love video games, I
Yeah,
do love anime, and I do love manga. Though I will say that I haven't watched anything like as obsessively as I'd watched like and read like Demon Slayer. Like afterwards, like I almost
Demon
took
Slayer is good. Yeah,
it's so good. Afterwards, I kind of like took a little break because I was like, this was so good, and I tried to find like other things to like help, and I was like, fuck it. My other hobbies, I do a lot of electronics projects.
oh, that's cool.
So my desk is just a little like electronics like hobbyist haven,
Yeah,
which is why I fidget with my calipers.
yep,
um, so I have a bunch of like tools and stuff here on my desk that I use to kind of like prototype and make a bunch of different like fun electronics things. I also paint, I
yeah.
write, I play video games. Like I especially with ADHD, I've never been able to really stick to one hobby for too long. So basically,
Same,
is like
same
I
though.
just cycle through hobbies.
Yep, I call it
Um,
ADHD hours. It's like, let's go.
yeah, yeah, like I will get really really into like doing like one huge sewing project where I make like a 6 foot long squid, which I have done.
Yeah,
um and then after that, like I won't sew anything for like another month or like a year or something, right? And then afterwards, like I'll be like, man, I should really sew like a little dragon plush, and then I'll like go right back into it. Or like I'll paint and I'll do like 5 paintings in a row and then be like, okay, that's enough for now, let me switch to something else.
right. Yeah,
um so like I basically just have a bastion of hobbyist things, and then
yeah.
I just swap between them.
That's amazing. And then, so what has been your one of your favorite games this year? Of because I see you playing a lot of
Ooh,
Minecraft, and you can totally
yeah,
choose Minecraft if you want to, because it has had a lot of changes this year and everything. But is
it
there?
has. I like Minecraft a lot. Like it's a
Yeah.
very good game. I enjoy survival games a lot. I would say like so here's the thing, right? Is that I play games on stream and I play games off stream. And the games that I play off stream, I do not play on stream.
Hmm.
Um and this is very intentional because when I play a game on stream, I get burnt out.
Hmm.
So like for example, I had been waiting for Animal Crossing for years and I was obsessed with it, but because I also started creating a lot of Animal Crossing content,
Yeah.
suddenly I got like completely burnt out.
Feels like work.
And
Yeah.
yeah, it started to feel like work. And so I haven't picked it up in months,
Hmm.
right? But like Valorant, which is a game that came out, I started playing with my friends and I played it off stream. I think I've maybe streamed it like twice, but like I
Yeah.
play it off stream, and because I can play with my friends, like I just keep going back to it,
Yeah.
right? So I would say Valorant has probably been the game that's like gotten
It's
me
a good game.
like
Yeah.
yeah, it's a good game. I used to play like CS with my friends, and like we'd play like Team Fortress as
Yeah.
well. And I have one friend specifically who's like one of my best friends,
Yeah.
where we'll like find games together and just go all in.
Hmm. This is the best
And
feeling.
so yeah, and it's fantastic because it'll be like a really stressful day at work or something, and then I could like relax by just playing games with her. And
Yeah.
like it was been really fun to like play Valorant because we'll go in and we'll play, and then sometimes we'll get really frustrated and be like, fuck it, like we're gonna go play Fortnite or some shit. But like other times, like we celebrate each other's like wins,
Yeah.
and I really appreciate that. Like I love seeing like my friends thrive in game,
Hmm.
and I think that they also love seeing me thrive.
Yeah.
And it's really cool, and it's really like nice. So yeah, I'll go ahead and say Valorant just
Right
because
on.
I get to play with my friends.
Valorant is a great game. I feel like video game nights with the homies is like the new poker night, and like
Yep.
the new kickbacks, which like